Next up, we have a little bit of a story that I want everyone to get ready because I'm going to be asking you whether you think this happened or not.
An atheist professor wanted to prove to his students that God didn't exist. So
An atheist professor, everybody, wanted to prove to his students that God didn't exist. Definitely not the story of God's not dead. Certainly not. This is a whole different, separate thing, and we'll find out it is a separate thing. Professor of what? Unfortunately, the story never tells us. Atheist professor of something. We don't know. Computer science, gym. We don't know.
he asked a question. Does evil exist?
And everyone will know that if I was asked this question, does evil exist? I would absolutely say no. Evil is a property. Properties don't exist on their own. You have this whole semantic. You can say, hey, does red exist? I don't think red exists except as a property of another thing. Red is not a noun, just as evil is not a noun. Nothing can be You can't have evil without a subject being evil. So no, evil doesn't exist, but we'll see. This atheist professor was asking the students. I don't know why he was doing that.
The students in his class answered, yes, it exists. So he asked, well, did God create everything? They answered, yes, he created everything.
Ooh, here's the gotcha. So the students fell for evil being a thing. Maybe the atheist professor agrees with me that it doesn't exist, and he just did a gotcha on the students. I don't know, but you can see where this is going. If God created everything and evil's a thing, mm, God made evil.
He said, well, if God created everything, then God created evil. Then he is evil in of it himself. A student
I don't know that that is true. I think a God can create things that he's not. Like God created plants, and God's not a plant. God created rivers. He's not a river. God created quarks. He's not a quark. So I don't know that that follows that a God who made evil is evil, but fine.
raised his hand and said, does cold exist? He said, of course.
No, cold doesn't exist. Cold is a cold is a label we give to a property to a range of heat measurements that make us that's below the heat measurement makes us comfortable. No, cold doesn't exist.
Have you never been cold?
No, cold is just a property of the kinetic energy, the amount of kinetic energy that is in your environment or in an object. No, this is terrible. Cold doesn't exist.
The student answered, cold does not exist. Cold is the absence of heat. You measure temperature by how much heat is in the atmosphere.
Kinda. Again, you're measuring kinetic energy, not you're not measuring temperature. Temperature is the measure of kinetic energy. Cold is a range of measurements of temperature. And it's definitely subjective because you would something it's not like some temperatures are cold and other temperatures aren't because you would anyway, it doesn't matter. Everyone agrees, but this is just weird. Ultimately, sure, is cold. Yeah, cold's a lack of heat. Okay.
So the student asked another question. Does darkness exist? The professor said, of course. The student replies,
Okay, this is the dumbest professor in the school because if he didn't see what the student's doing after the first question, I don't know how many more questions we got going here, but don't say yeah, darkness. Darkness is a thing. Absolutely, it's a noun of a thing. It's not. No, no one made no.
again, sir, you're wrong. Darkness does not exist. Darkness is the absence of light. You measure how dark it is by the lack of light.
I guess when's the last time anyone said, "Why don't you measure how dark it was?" And then everyone clapped. Yes, kumquat. That's exactly right. And then that's just one of those, and then everyone clapped stories.
Student asked a final question. Sir, does evil exist? The professor said, of course it exists. Haven't you seen the crime that's going on around the world? The student answered,
So again, professor, I don't know what you're a professor of. The fact that crime is going on in the world doesn't mean that evil is a noun or that evil is a thing that can be created. Someone had to perpetrate those crimes, and it's actually not even the people who are evil necessarily. It is actions in this point, the way we label evil. Evil is the label we give to actions we don't like or that are counter to well being and increased suffering. So you're not a good I don't like this atheist at all.
Answered, "Sir, evil does not exist, at least not unto itself.
See, the Christian student knows evil doesn't exist unto itself. I don't think the other Christians will like him for this answer. Christians I know seem to think that evil is a noun, but whatever.
Evil is the absence of God. Evil is what happens when men don't have God's love in their hearts.
No, no, this is terrible. The examples you gave were cold. They were actually fine. Cold is an absent of heat. Okay, cool. Darkness, an absent of light. Okay, cool. Evil is an absent of good. Then, if you're making these parallels, evil is an absent of good because good and evil, those are the opposite. It's not evil and God. Those are not the ends of the spectrum. So no, 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 no. If this is the way you want to go, evil is a lack of good. That would be, I would still have quarrels, but that would at least be consistent. You can't just decree that God equals good and think you've won something.
Evil is like cold when there is no heat and darkness when there's no light. The professor sat down. The student's name was Albert Einstein. See,
Albert Einstein? Wait, everyone. This was Albert Einstein doing this. Can you believe it? Albert Einstein, who famously didn't really like notions of God. And it seems weird that this is weird that he would do this. Well, let me just go over to Snopes. Did Albert Einstein humiliate an atheist professor? Wait, are you telling me this TikToker could have done some research? Well, let's see what Snopes says. Maybe Snopes is affirming of this story. False. And here's what I thought was hilarious. So collected via email in 1989. This right here is pretty much word for word the script of what the dude said. If I ask you a question, Professor, of course, replied the professor. The student sat up and said, Professor, does cold exist? What? And this is pretty much the script of his video. So I guess that's a whole TikTok genre, YouTube Shorts genre now. Is you just go to Snopes and you find a thing that's false and you read it. All right. So for those looking for a quick answer to the question about the narrative is literally true, we'll state up front, it is not. What? Nothing remotely like the account related appears in any biography or any article about Albert Einstein, nor is the account congruent with the science expressed views on the subject of religion, in which he described himself generally as an agnostic or a non-religious or a religious non-believer. So, right? This is crazy. So, yeah, didn't happen. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. We all knew it didn't happen, but we added Albert Einstein on so that what? So that we would all now be impressed that it was a smart student. Isn't it a better story for your Christian narrative? Because God takes the lowly things, right, to shame the wise, the humble things to shame the proud. Why would Albert Einstein silencing the professor be better? What you'd want this to be like the dumbest student in class, or like a 7-year-old who'd wandered in for some kind of thing. What you always want in this thing, you want the David and Goliath here. You don't want your hero to be Albert Einstein. I think that's actually counter to your story, but yeah, no, I don't think it happened.
God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. If God is the light of your heart, type amen and share this with somebody who needs hearing.
So this is a whole thing I've been missing my whole life, my whole YouTube career. I've been missing out on this. Apparently, this is a new Christian thing. I'm going to say a weird thing. If you believe what I believe, subscribe, like, and subscribe. So, hey, if you, like me, believe this story never happened, subscribe, share, thumbs up, all the things. Smash the buttons.